Are you ready to build a brand that stands out? Let me guess. You've been posting content, but something's missing. That special sauce that makes your brand unforgettable. Or you haven't started your journey yet, but you're thinking ahead to how you want your brand to look. Well, today we're unlocking the secrets to building a brand identity that is as unique as you are. No more cookie cutter content. It's time to make your mark in the digital world. A lot of new creators fall into the trap of using generic imagery that does not really represent who they are as a creator. If you've seen any post on social media where someone mentions streaming or content creation, you have these bot graphic artists that kind of fly out from the far reaches of the internet to offer the most boring, bland, and basic graphics and logos for your channel that are not really unique, and they charge astronomical prices. Look at this. I literally made this in Canva in 2 minutes, and this is typical of the type of graphics that get peddled by these bot artists. And this isn't something that stands out or is unique, because they're going to use the same imagery, sell it to someone else, change the colors, and maybe change the name, and it's gonna still look the same. As a new creator, it can be very tempting to use that stuff, but if you want to stand out from the crowd, I definitely recommend either hiring a real graphic artist for a custom activation or developing these items yourself. So, in today's episode, we're going to be talking a lot about brand identity and how to create it. We're going to discuss how you create a unique brand name. We're going to discuss how you develop these memorable visuals and how to keep that content and brand consistent throughout all of your platforms. So, first up on the agenda is developing a unique brand name. Let's get into it. So, just like every episode, I created a document for you to follow along with in this episode where you can jot down all your brainstorm ideas. So head to that link in the description so that you can get the document for today's episode. All right, let's get into it. So first off, let's talk names. Creating a brand name is so important because this is what you want to be known as for your intended community. Things that I would take into consideration is, does your name have a story? Is it easy to say or remember? Is it borderline or full-on offensive, which may prevent some sponsors to not want to partner with you, so take that into consideration. The name doesn't have to be something grandiose unless you want it that way. I really love when I go into like a new streamer's channel that I found and asking them about their names, especially if it's a super funny name and I just love learning the lore behind it. It gives me really good insight to the type of creator they are. This all goes back to what we discussed in the first episode where we talked about creating your aesthetic for your channel. And your name helps with building your creator persona. So just to give you some insight, my name, Reaper228, has a story. It comes from our family gaming crew. So my brother, Doc, who's my middle brother, he got us all into gaming at a very, very early age. And we came up with the gamer crew name Reaper Squad because we crushed so many FPS games. Obviously, my brother Doc was Reaper 1. I'm Reaper 2 because I started gaming after him, and then my other brother, Shadowhawk, became Reaper 3. And the 28 comes from my birthday, and thus the name Reaper 228 was born. First-time viewers of my channel always ask me where my name comes from, or some think it's related to the very popular Mass Effect game, which I love that game. And so it kind of helps spark interesting conversations and just allows me to connect with the viewer. These are just some things to keep in mind when you're thinking of a handle for your channel. But also, to ease some stress, it's okay to rebrand and have a name change later on down the road. There are so many creators that realize their initial name doesn't really cover who they are as a creator anymore, and they opt to change it later on. So just let your community know when you're going to change it so they're not confused as to who Ninja79 is the next time you stream. So make sure you grab that brainstorming sheet and jot down some ideas and themes about what you think you want your brand name to be, and I'll see you in the next section. Next up for discussion is designing memorable visuals. I'm really excited about this because I'm going to show you a couple tips and tricks that I've learned over the past 4 years, and I'm going to show you a actual tutorial of how I made some overlays so that you can get some ideas of how you can do this yourself. So let's get into this point. So have you ever noticed that when certain brands post on social media, they always have a visual cue that kind of calls back to their overall brand? Let's use the example of the company Razer. Shameless plug, I'm a part of their creator program, so I love hyping them up. Also, check out my affiliate link in the description. So if you notice on any social media announcements or videos, it contains their classic hues of neon green and black. When you think of that company, you immediately associate those colors with them, along with the triple-headed snake. You can apply the same concept to your own branding. Maybe one day your brand will be up there in recognizability like some of the gaming giants. Okay. So there are several ways you can go about creating visuals for your channel / your social media. I'm going to give you 3 different paths for going about this, and these will have some costs attached to it. So we'll start off with the first path, which is the most expensive path, and that is hiring a graphic artist for custom work. There are tons of sites that you can use to find artists to do custom work for you. For example, a lot of creators use a website called Fiverr to find and hire these artists. What they'll do is some of them will have like stock images where you can ask them to change based off of your color scheme and design characteristics, but they also have the option for full customization where they'll design something from scratch, and they'll provide you examples of their art style so you can see what they're capable of. But keep in mind that this sometimes can cost upwards of $100 if you want quality work. We want to pay these artists what they're worth. Keep in mind that they're going to be creating overlays, alerts, emotes, all of the different things that are related to streaming or content creation. We'll make YouTube banners, thumbnails, all of that to say that make sure that you are okay with paying that artist their worth. Second path, pre-made overlays. You can use websites like Owned, Nerd or Die, Etsy, Streamlabs, Stream Elements to find pre-made graphics. They have pre-made overlays, alerts, graphics, and so much more that you can either buy outright or you have to subscribe to that service in order to have access to them. But like I said, keep in mind, these are not customized and you run the risk of someone else out there having your exact design. And while we're speaking of this, just a quick aside on money. A lot of creators think they need to spend tons of money right out the gate and drop some serious cash before even finding out if they even enjoy content creation and streaming, or if they even have a passion for it. So I highly recommend that you create a budget that includes your tech, your graphics, your setup, and only get the things that you need when you first start, and then start to build up. We're going to talk more about budgeting in a later episode with the tech talk. So just keep that in mind that you don't have to spend a lot of money right out the gate. Learn first if you like content creation and streaming and all the things that come with it first before you drop thousands of dollars and get yourself into debt. All right, let's talk about the third path. All right, so the third path, which is my favorite path, is creating it yourself. When I first started out, I initially chose path 2 despite being knowledgeable with programs like Photoshop. Here are some examples of my initial overlays and alerts. And I really have no complaints about these designs, aside from the fact that it wasn't custom to me. I'm truly grateful I started with this because it helped me expand my brand to incorporate my love for cyberpunk, synthwave, and neon. So I decided I really wanted people to see a unique thing when they came to my channel, and I took a few weeks to work on some custom alerts, overlays, and graphics. I even did a cyberpunk inspired photo shoot and used these images to be the basis for my new designs. I used tools like Canva, Adobe After Effects, and Photoshop to make these things come to life. And here are some examples of the things that I made. I'm going to show you how simple it is to make your own stuff using programs like this. While this path does cost some money, Canva does cost $120 for Canva Pro, and the Adobe Creative Suite is $60 a month, and sometimes they'll do different kind of discounts if you pay for the full year, but with those subscriptions, you do get access to a lot of good perks and tools and like 20 different programs in the Adobe Creative Suite. So I'm going to show you just a quick example of how I did my own graphics using this example that I just put together for this specific episode. And the reason that this is such a cool thing for you to learn how to do is that later on down the road, when you're wanting to revamp things, the only person that you have to rely on is yourself, because you already know how to do these things, and it gives you that chance to really get in there and learn how to customize things to make things stand out for your content. Nobody else is going to be able to have what you create unless you sell it to someone. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking of this path.
Okay, so to make this anime style overlay, what I did is start it with a stock image and added a hue saturation level to it to give it that purple pink color that I was looking for. As you can see, added a layer for that hue saturation, and it changed the color of the picture, and you can adjust that to your liking. It was important to realize that after you do this step, you're going to have to break this photo up into different components because we want to animate that waterfall that's behind us. So we have to break it up into the bridge. We're going to have an anime girl on top, and then also we're going to have a specific portion for the cutout of this overlay piece so that when we put our animated waterfall behind it, it looks like it is immersed into the picture. And the way that you cut out these pieces is you use the pen tool to edge around the shape that you're trying to get, and then you can go back and cut out additional pieces so that you get that transparent layer, so that when you place it on top of the waterfall, you'll still be able to see the waterfall coming through. As you can see, we cut out a portion on the bridge, and it was important that we cut out 2 small windows, well actually 3 small windows on the bridge, because again, you're going to see our anime girl that's behind there and the waterfall that comes through that portion, and that's just to give it that realistic feeling. And so now we're going to put all our pieces together, and as you can see our anime ninja, and we added our background back, and bam, it looks like this picture was put together this way from the original photo. And then again, like I mentioned, you can mess with the hue saturation of the color to make it more pink or more purple. And the very last thing that I did was add a layer called posterize to kind of give it more of a anime type feel. You can adjust it to be more or less pixelated. It just all depends on the vibe that you're going for. But as you can see, we'll toggle it on and off. You can see one that looks like the original stock photo, but then when we click posterize back on, it adds that kind of extra layer of looking a little bit more animated and pixelated. And then the last thing you want to do is make sure that you export each single component as a PNG, and this is important for exporting it into After Effects. So now that we've exported each individual piece into After Effects, this is why I said it was really, really important that you did that, because you're going to be manipulating each single layer so that it all fits together in a cohesive look. So we'll break it down. Don't be overwhelmed by all of the components in here. Okay, so just like in Photoshop, we have our background layer. Go ahead and ignore that portion that says waterfall. I'll show you about that a little bit later. Then we have our test ninja, our bridge, and then the tree cutout so that everything fits together in a cohesive look. And then I just added in the starting soon, animations, and sakura leaves, which we'll talk about in just a bit. Let's get into how I animated this waterfall layer. It requires being a little bit ingenious with learning how to animate in After Effects. So let's get into it. I learned how to make this animation based off of a company called Flow Motion, and I'll link the description to their YouTube video so you can learn how to animate this waterfall as well. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to create a solid layer, whatever you like. And then you're going to go over to the side and look for the checkerboard effect.
And I just went over to the side here to change the sizing of the checkerboard so that it's easier to see. And then we're going to rotate it on its axis so that we can make sure that we can see in our animation where the floor of our animation is going to be. So we're going to rotate it. Next up, we're going to add a camera layer. You can see the settings there and hit OK. I'm going to add one more solid layer and name it waterfall so you know which you're going to be animating. And now to get our waterfall, we type in particle, and then we're going to choose particle world. Add that to our waterfall layer. So there are different drop downs to allow you to change the direction of the water flow. I chose direction axis just to see how the water is going to flow, and then I'm going to change the height and the axis in the Y, X, and Z axis to kind of change how we see the flow of the water. And like I said, you can play with these settings on your own to get the best look that you're going for. Okay, so after you've kind of gotten the shape of the water flow, you can change, how long you see the particles, how fast it is, changing the velocity of it. Then you can also change the color of the flow of the water because we actually want it to look like water. Okay, so I went to custom coloring, and then I just started with the lightest possible blue, like almost white, and then just kind of added a darker and darker layer each time to each of the panels like you see here on the side to give it that like changing water color as it gets heavier in the water flow kind of look. And after making those adjustments, this is the final outcome of how that animated waterfall came out, and it looks really, really good. Now we're going to add back in our other components so that you can see how it fits into the overall picture. And the last couple things that I did was add in falling sakura leaves that I got from a green screen animation from a site called vectz.com. And then also added in a typewriter effect for our text for the starting soon screen. And then the very last thing that I did was just add another camera to slowly pan in on the shot so it looks like we have a little bit of motion and it's not just a static image. Being a content creator sometimes means you're a jack of all trades. You are a videographer, you're a director, you're a graphic artist, you're a social media manager, a makeup artist. So the faster you can learn to utilize these different tools, the easier your streaming and content creation journey is going to be. This brings me to my next point of establishing consistent branding across platforms. Another important aspect of curating your brand identity is selecting a color scheme/font that is consistent across all platforms. There are so many websites that help you develop a color palette that you can save the hex codes so that no matter what platform or software you're using, you'll be able to use that exact same color that is for your palette. Since I pay for the Adobe suite, I use the site color.adobe.com, and this allows me to save my color palette so that no matter which Adobe program I'm using, I can pull my color palette into that program. This site also allows you to upload a picture and determine the colors of the picture and create a palette based off of that. There are several similar free websites that do this same exact thing, so find what works best for you. I also recommend that you choose a range of colors that range from light to dark so that you can have variety for your graphics that you're going to post on social media. You can also choose a specific font that will be your main design for everything that you use. For example, I really love the font Kung font. This is an example of it. It came from that pre-made template that I bought when I first started, and this has become my standard font. I also selected a simple/clean font called Montserrat, and I use this when I need things to be easier for people to see lots of text on my graphics for my socials. There are literally hundreds of thousands of fonts to choose from, and the cool thing is, if you don't see any that you like, you can make your own font. The possibilities are endless. This step that we just talked about is so important for creating consistent branding across all of your social media platforms. People are going to see when they go from your Instagram to your YouTube to your streaming platform of choice that it's all the same scheme. And this is what creates your brand identity. So definitely check out some of the websites that I listed and check out some of the different graphic design tools and websites and figure out what is going to work best for you. And if you have any questions or concerns or want some more tutorials on Adobe After Effects or Photoshop, just let me know in the comments and I'd be more than happy to do some of those tutorials. We covered so much in this episode. If there's anything you want a deeper dive on how I created things, let me know in the comments. So, to recap all of our main points, I want you to figure out what story you want to tell with your name. Figure out what is the most cost-effective way for you to design memorable visuals and graphics, and for whatever path you choose, make sure the graphics and colors and fonts create a consistent brand for all of your platforms. My brand identity has definitely continued to evolve over the years I've been streaming, but still all have a central theme of my love for cyberpunk neon synthwave. Like I mentioned in the previous episode about reviewing analytics and avoiding stagnation, it's important to review and revamp as you progress. My next challenge is to learn Unreal Engine to create a cyber city for my overlays, so don't be afraid of learning how to do things yourself. So I hope this video sparks some ideas for your brand. I want you to take some time after the video to use that brainstorming sheet I made for you to kind of write down how you see your brand coming to life. And make sure you like and subscribe to this channel so that we can keep doing videos like this. And let me know in the comments what you think your color scheme and design pathway that you're going to take for starting out. Our next video is going to be about how to craft compelling content for your channel. So until next time, Reaper out.